YouTube, what is good? So like I mentioned in the last video, this month was a pretty intense work month for me. Traveled 2 weeks out of the month, and because of that, I'm kind of tired, and I want to just do a video that's a little bit more simple to close things out this month. So we are doing a Q&A. It has been a hot minute since we did one of these, and this one is probably the most personal Q&A I've ever done on this channel. It's a lot of good questions in here. I asked y'all on Twitter to throw me some personal and photography related, and y'all did just that. So sit back, relax. You can browse around on other tabs. You can go on a run. This is going to basically be like a mini podcast. Hope you enjoy nonetheless, and I'm really excited to be home in the month of October and get back to the more general type content that is on this YouTube channel. So if you enjoy this one, hit the thumbs up button for me, and shout out to the sponsor on today's video, Cutz. We will talk about them in a little bit. So let's get into it right here. First one, this is a spicy ass question. How did you push yourself to create while going through your divorce? That I don't think was very hard. You know, I think anytime you go through a major life moment like that, having a creative outlet is definitely beneficial. And for me, I was luckily in a position with all that stuff going down. I don't know how much in depth do I want to get about my divorce and relationship. I mean, we're coming up on a year since all that happened. You know, it's funny, like with the YouTube channel, I always share information with y'all way after it happens. Like when I posted that I lost my job video, that was like 7 months after all that stuff, 7 or 8 months after all that went down. And then same with when I talked about the relationship ending, you know, that happened in December of last year, but I didn't talk about it until July of this year. So we're coming up on a year. It all happened extremely quickly. I mean, really sudden, really fast. And I would say that at the time, that was the most difficult part, was just sorting through like the emotions of it. So work became kind of like a good escape. You know, I think it's bad to just completely avoid the way you're feeling and skip out on the healing process of something like that, which is what a lot of people do. But for me, I just went like monk mode, basically. I talked about this on a podcast on the Patreon. For 4 months, like I did nothing. All I did was work, go to the gym, run, take care of my dog, eat good, and read books and learn about myself, basically. And by the end of those 4 months, I felt fantastic. You know, I didn't date anybody. I didn't even try to entertain the idea of dating anyone or like meeting new people, nothing. It was all about me focusing, trying to get through what that was. And work was a very positive outlet in that. So I think whenever you're going through something major like that, you know, having a creative outlet like photography, whether it's your job like me, to have your YouTube channel also, or my YouTube channel also, whether it's your job or just something you do for fun, I think it's definitely a good thing. So that was how I kind of pushed through all that. So real quick before we continue on with the video, I want to thank our sponsor today, Cutz. Cutz is a huge part of this YouTube channel and a huge part of my life because they solve a major problem for me. You see, Cutz is a brand dedicated to making premium men's apparel that can be both worn in a professional setting and in a casual setting. And for me, I've always liked to dress pretty casual. I like to wear t-shirts and I like to wear hoodies for the most part. The problem with these outfit choices is they typically cause you to lack some confidence, especially in more formal settings and in more business type settings. You know, if you go to a meeting like the one I have in 4 hours and you're wearing a t-shirt that isn't a high quality t-shirt, kind of look like a slob. Doesn't look like you know what you're doing. And the same goes for something like a hoodie or a crew neck sweatshirt. And that is why Cutz is so valuable to me and why they're such a big part of this channel. If you watch any of the videos on this channel for the last few months, chances are you have seen something from Cutz make an appearance. From the house tour video, I was wearing an elongated brown Cutz t-shirt, to the Miami video I put out a few weeks ago, I was wearing a black elongated Cutz t-shirt, to this video right here. And the reason I'm wearing Cutz in all these videos is because of how undeniably quality all their products are. They're dedicated to making garments that fit very well, that look good, and the materials they use are fantastic. And another great thing about Cutz is they're constantly adding new products to their site, introducing new things, and growing their lineup of what's available. You are going to continue to see Cutz on this channel, and I'm telling y'all, as the weather changes, do yourself a favor, grab one of these. You are going to be looking like the flyest guy at the barbecue or at the business happy hour, or if you're a YouTuber like me and you need something that looks good on camera, Cutz is your people. So go down to the link in the description on today's video and you can get 15% off that first purchase of Cutz. Big shout out to them for sponsoring today's video. Next up, what has COVID changed most in your career? Oh my goodness. I would say one of the hardest things about the last couple years for me is just constant change. You know, I haven't really found my footing on where I am exactly in life still. I slowly am, but if you've paid attention to the way things have transpired on these videos since the beginning of 2020, I had like a system. You know, I had what I thought my life was. I would go do my job 2 days a week at Epitome. I do product photography there. I liked doing it. You know, like all jobs, there's certain things that you don't like, certain things you do, but it was a steady job and I enjoyed having that. And then I would work on the YouTube channel as like my secondary income. I had sponsors, and then I would take social media photo shoots as another form of income. Like that was the way I was making my money. And then all of a sudden, you know, COVID happens, and just like that whole system that I had built over years, I'm talking, you know, 3 years of my life went into building this way of doing things that was working. It was working really, really, really well. That system of doing things just completely went away, and I had to figure something else out in 2020. I would say COVID literally changed everything. I mean, it like completely flipped my life upside down. I was having a conversation with my friend Chris, who y'all have seen on the channel a bunch. We were talking yesterday on the phone, and we were like, dude, can you believe a year ago we were driving across country together, just sitting in this car, and now look at where our lives are a year later. So I would say the biggest lesson in all of it is like you never know what's around the corner, and you never really know what life has in store for you. Next question. Let's see here. I'm kind of jumping around. How many income streams do you have, and how much do you make yearly? Do you feel like you have enough freedom with these numbers? I'm not going to tell you the exact number, the exact amount of money I make a year. I make over 6 figures a year. I mean, I guess I'll put that out there. The amount of income streams that I have right now, let me count them out. I would say probably about 8 right now. I'm trying to add to that by the end of the year. I'd love to get to 10. And I feel like I have a pretty good amount of freedom with the way business is going. Obviously, you know, business is a long, long game. And what's funny is the more I've learned about business over the last really 2 years, the more I've realized how young I am in it. You know, it takes people a long, long time to bring their ideas to life. And I think for me, like I mentioned in the last question, you know, my life was at this point where it was so just cycle based. You know, I knew what I was going to do every day. I was in this really nice rhythm and routine to where I was making good money. But I feel like now in the last really year and a half, it's the first time I've ever really started to try to grow something bigger. And in that, I've realized there's a lot of freedom that comes with being your own boss, but there's also a lot of responsibility and discipline involved in growing it into something that is really, really sustainable in the long run. And I think most entrepreneurs and creative people like me have a vision of what they want their life to look like. And to get there, I know there's certain things that I got to change, and I don't want to just get comfortable with how things are going right now. I always feel like I need to continue to improve and continue to grow and build upon what I'm already doing. So hope that answers your question. Let's see, latest sneaker pickup. Man, what did I get? I picked up a pair of they're just like really casual trainers. I can't remember what they're called. I'll throw them on the screen right here. What are plans for the future of your channel? plans for the future of this channel is to get my life in order so I can share that with y'all. But one big plan that I'm trying to get done by the end of the year is bring somebody on to help me with filming. I just think it would improve a lot of the content and really be able to start sharing more of my life and my lifestyle and make things a little bit easier. So that's the big next step, is trying to find somebody who I can work with and collaborate with more. Let's see. Sorry, I'm yawning. As a fellow ATLian, what's your favorite part of living in Atlanta? Mine is we have a great city for street photography, great landscape areas, mountains, and even waterfalls. That is one of my favorite parts as well. I absolutely love the fact that Atlanta is situated so close to nature stuff, and it almost sometimes in the city feels like that. You're within a few hours from really fantastic hikes. The weather here, I absolutely love. I know people don't like the summers, but I love how short the winter is here. But I do like the fact that you do get a winter. It's like, hey, it's going to be cold for 2 months, 3 months, and then everything's back to normal. So I love the weather, and I actually really love the diversity. Growing up in the part of Atlanta I grew up in a suburb outside the city. It was super middle class, and I grew up in a neighborhood around, nobody looked like each other. There were all different races, all different types of people, and I thought that was really cool growing up, and it exposed me to a lot of different cultures and a lot of different things at a young age. And I don't know if I would have gotten that had I not lived in the part of Atlanta I did and grown up the way I did. And shout out to my parents as well for, putting me in that situation to where I could learn those things from those people. And that's one thing I love. I don't know why people are the way they are, but for me, I love the variety of perspectives and people that are in Atlanta. I mean, the food here is so great. You can get like the best food from any part of the world here. It's so awesome. I just spit all over this microphone because I got so excited. Next up, biggest thing you had to overcome in photography. Man, I would say the biggest thing I had to overcome was definitely last year with COVID and with me not having my steady income type job anymore. Obviously I always planned on eventually, growing out of that. Why am I yawning? If you listen to the podcast, your boy yawns. Biggest thing I had to overcome though, was the stuff happening with Epitome and that job just going away overnight. I mean, it was like a security blanket. I always knew, okay, I'm going to be making this amount of money per month to at least cover my mortgage. I knew all right, the mortgage is covered. We're good to go. And to have that stripped away with really no warning was a pretty big shock to the system. But I ended up sorting it out. I did what you had to do. I put my head down. I worked. The amount of work I did last year and the amount of energy and effort I put into this YouTube channel was, I'm not going to lie, completely unsustainable. I mean, I was just absolutely crushing myself to try to get things to where they need to be. And now I'm at a point where I'm trying to figure out how to recapture the energy I had last year without completely burning myself out and creating in a way that is maybe a little more responsible to my energy, I guess you would say. But definitely the biggest thing I had to overcome was that. I actually had someone ask me about Epitome. So they asked, will I ever be working with Epitome again? And unfortunately, one of the things that happened with Epitome is that I don't want to get too into the business of somebody else. It's not my business to talk about, but essentially Epitome got looted when the riots happened in Atlanta. And what most people don't understand is that when a store or something like that gets looted, insurance doesn't cover it. So it really, damaged that business. And I would love to go back and work there, but it doesn't look like it's going to be feasible for them anytime soon, unfortunately. So I would love to do it. I'd love to do some more product photography, but now I've kind of shifted away from that and moved on into a different phase of my life. But I'll always be grateful for Epitome and the opportunity there. And it sucks that went down. Those riots were not cool, and it's funny. It took jobs away from people in that community. So hey, it is what it is. Let's see here. What are some things you like to do to refresh your inspiration? Sometimes life gets stale and too routine. I like doing day trips. That's kind of been a staple of the channel over the last few years. Is I'll just randomly drive up to North Georgia. I'll randomly drive out and do something. That always gets my creativity going, sparks my interest. Sometimes I'll just drive out to different small towns around here. That's one of the big reasons why I started doing that. Was it just always felt fresh. It felt like there was something new to find. And I like being in photography situations now that feel more relaxed. I like street photography and I like city stuff, but a lot of times it really stresses me out, especially now that I'm living down here. I like to go somewhere else where I can really enjoy photography and relax. So when I need inspiration, that's what I do. Sometimes I'll look at photo books as well. I find that to be really helpful. And I try not to overthink it too. Sometimes you got to put down the camera for a while. Go for it. How did you get or buy your first camera you used for work, and what was it? First really good, decent camera I got was a Nikon 610, and I financed it on Amazon. I didn't have the money for it, and I was like, you know what? I'm just going to put this on credit, which I definitely don't recommend you do, but I'd had 0% financing for a year, and I remember thinking, all right, I could probably pay off $1,600. It's $150 a month. And sure enough, I did, and I took that camera, and I made a bunch of photography with it, and then I ended up selling a bunch of that photography to a large church here. They bought some prints, they bought some licensing, took that money, cashed the check, and I took the cash to Showcase Photo and bought a Nikon D810, which I used for years and years and years for work. Haven't looked back since. So basically I did what a lot of people do, is I just took out some debt to get myself started, paid it off, and then I started working off cash from there. What shot or collections of photos do you feel was the biggest inspiration for your new book, Stops Along the Way? Man, Stops Along the Way is my favorite thing I have ever made, and it's probably going to always be that. I can't see myself making something that I love more than that book, because it is so reflective of my life during that time. Stops Along the Way is exactly what the title says. It's just this showcase of how your life goes. I mean, you go through phases. You have moments where things, you feel really inspired, and all these things come together, and they created this book. And, even what I went through with my personal life, there's a photo of my ex-wife in that book. And I absolutely love that photo. I put it in there for a reason, because it's not a negative. It's just, it is what it is. It was a period of time in my life, and there's a lot of things I'm grateful that I did with her. I'm grateful for the fact that relationship led to a lot of those photos. We went to the Smoky Mountains together, and that page in the book of that motel, that's one of my favorite pages and collections of photos I've ever done. And I wouldn't have done that if I wasn't with her. It's funny, I actually drove past that, and I was like, yo, should I turn around? I was like, I don't really want to. I want to get you home. And she's like, no, go turn around and do it. And had I not, I would have missed out on those, So Stops Along the Way is just, it's a reflection of letting life happen and not overthinking it and dwelling on it, and just saying, hey, this was a great period of time. The travel photos in that book, it was a great period of time when I made those, and it was what it was, and I'm grateful for it. The street photography section was what it was. I'm grateful for it. I'm happy that happened. And then same thing with the small town stuff. Had COVID not happened, that section of the book wouldn't have happened. And it's some of my favorite work that I've made. I was super inspired during that summer So, yeah, I don't think there's a direct like photo in there necessarily, but there's a lot of memories in that book, a lot of them. And it's an important project for me. Let's see here. Let's get a few more. We've probably got like 10 minutes left. If you weren't a photographer, what would you be? I really think I'd still be in the health field. I did go to school for exercise physiology. I could have worked in cardiac rehab. I don't know if that is necessarily the job that I wanted to do, but I just like helping people. So who knows? It's kind of funny. Like I wonder what I would have done. I did work as a personal trainer. That wasn't necessarily my favorite job, but who knows? Maybe if I had never found photography, I would have stayed in school and done physical therapy. That was like my original plan years and years ago before I found anything creative. Next is, are you going to join the NFT space? I've considered it. I'm thinking about buying some NFTs because I am really interested in it, and then maybe doing my own. I don't know. I think the artwork there is really cool. Like I love collecting art. I've always loved paintings. All my fine art friends are getting into the NFT stuff. So I'm more interested in that regard, and then maybe I'll get into it as a photographer. What color is your toothbrush? Green right now, but I do need to replace it. For your self-portraits, are they shot by yourself, or do you set up a tripod or a timer, and do you use your Leica Q for those? Sometimes I use my Q for self-portraits. Sometimes I use my SL2. On the Q, you have to use time-lapse. And then on the SL2, I use the interval timer. Anything really works. I like the interval timer for self-portraits just because, it can just run. You can hit like a million poses and then go through and figure out which one you look the best. Let's see, biggest challenge. We kind of already went over that. Here we go. This is a good little question to close this out with. Does your career ambition ever get in the way of your personal relationships? How do you navigate and balance those two things when the other person isn't as career driven? Man, what a question. So, I have changed a lot this year in regards to my career ambitions. It used to be career ambitions first. I wanted to get to a place where I felt this is when I was married. I wanted to get to a place where I felt extremely comfortable and felt like I could have like a family and all that stuff. And I got there, but for whatever reason, my life still never felt fully balanced. So I just continued to put a lot of energy into work. My ex-wife worked a lot as well. And I just think that when it comes to relationships, you need to meet someone and choose to be with someone who is going to understand you. And I think if I was to like pinpoint the reason why my last relationship and marriage didn't work out is because we met each other when we were very young and we lived a life a certain way up until we got married. And when we got married, we had to become adults, and the whole relationship dynamic changed, and neither of us really knew who we were married to. And I think it's super important when you're in relationships to be at a point in your life where you really know how you are and who you are. Now I know, hey, this is how I work. I know that I have certain things I need to get done, and then at a certain time, I'm going to clock out and completely forget any of this work even exists. That's the way I like to do it. And if I were to ever end up with anybody else, or I was to have another relationship, they need to understand that. They need to know that, hey, I compartmentalize my time. I spend a certain percentage of the day focusing on myself, my health. I spend a certain percentage of the day focusing on my business and my work, and sometimes that percentage is way bigger during the week than other weeks. And then there's time that I'm going to make for you or another person. And I think that communication and that upfrontness and also that understanding of who you are as a person is what's going to make that work. And it helps too if you're with a partner who is also career oriented or respects the fact that you are. That is how I'm going to go ahead and wrap this thing up. Thank you guys so much for being a part of this one. This is an awesome Q&A. This is probably my favorite one I've ever done. If I didn't get to your question, I will go ahead and answer it on Twitter, so look out for it on there. Y'all are the truth. Thumbs up, subscribe if you are not yet, and let me know in the comments if you want me to do more Q&As like this, because I actually really enjoyed it. So maybe it won't be as long between them if this one does well. See y'all next time.